everyone, welcome to my channel Tunes from NCERT. So our today's topic of discussion would be various phylums that come under the kingdom Animalia. So before starting this topic, we will first discuss about the broad classification of kingdom Animalia based on the common fundamental features. So in the last lecture, I have already taught you the basis of classification, which include the levels of organization, the symmetry, body cavity or the coelom. So first of all, as we all know that we are studying the kingdom Animalia. So the very peculiar feature of this kingdom Animalia is that all the organisms in kingdom Animalia are multicellular. So then we talk about the levels of organization. We know that there is a cellular level of organization, tissue, organ or organ system level of organization that we have already talked about in the previous video. So next comes the symmetry. We know that symmetry is radial type and bilateral type, and as I have already told you that the porifera or the sponges, the phylum Poriferra, is asymmetric. The organisms present in the phylum Poriferra are asymmetric. So, and I have also told you that the phylum Poriferra does not have coelom, so they are acoelomates. Next comes the radial and the bilateral symmetry. The organisms or the phylum in which radial symmetry is present, those are the phylum Coelentrata, that is Cnidaria, or the phylum Ctenophora. Then comes the bilateral symmetry. The bilateral symmetry is present in the animals which are acoelomates, then the pseudocoelomates and the coelomates. So the animals which are acoelomates means they do not have any body cavity. So those organisms come under the phylum Platyhelminthes. The organisms which are false coelom, that is, the mesoderm is present in scattered pouches, these organisms come under the phylum Escarmenthes, and the organisms with true coelom come under the phylum Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata and Chordata. So the first phylum which we are going to discuss is the phylum Poriferra. The members of this phylum Poriferra are also known as sponges. So this you have to remember many a times. The phylum Poriferra is also known as sponges. So what's their habitat? They are generally marine or mostly asymmetrical animals. Means you have to remember that these are the marine animals and these are asymmetric animals. Means they don't have any bilateral symmetry or any radial symmetry, which we have discussed in the previous video. So next comes, these are primitive multicellular animals and have cellular level of organization. Primitive means older. So these are the primitive animals. These animals have cellular level of organization, means all the cells work separately. Each cell has a different function. Like this cell will be having the function of digestion, this have some other function, and this would perform some other function. So this is how the function occurs in the body of sponges. So the sponges have water transport or canal system. This you have to remember, canal system. This complete word is very important, canal system. So water enters through the minute pores. These minute pores are known as the ostia. These minute pores are present in the body wall. So water enters through the minute pores ostia in the body wall into the central cavity, that is the spongocoel, from where it goes out through the osculum. Let me show you the diagram for this. So as you can see here, this is the ostium or the pore or the ostia. From here the water enters into the spongocoel or the central cavity, and then this water goes out through the osculum. This is the diagram of the water canal system which is present in the body of sponges. So these all are the cells which I have talked about earlier, that these all cells perform different functions. So what happens with this canal system? This canal system is the pathway of the water transport which is helpful in food gathering, respiratory exchange and removal of waste. So these 3 points are very, very important. The first function of this water transport is food gathering. Second function is respiratory exchange. Third function is the removal of waste. So next comes very important cells that are known as the quinocytes or the collar cells. These quinocytes or the collar cells line the spongiocele, which I have shown you in the diagram. So these are the quinocytes, these circular cells, these all are the quinocytes which are lined by the spongiocele. So I think you must have understood from the diagram. Next comes the digestion. The digestion in the phylum Poriferra is intracellular, means it is inside each cell. Like this is the cell, and this cell has the function of performing digestion. The food enters into it, then gets digested, and then waste is excreted out. So this is known as intracellular digestion. So the definition of intracellular digestion will be that digestion that occurs inside the individual cells. This digested food passes into the cytoplasm. So this is known as intracellular digestion. So the body is supported by the skeleton that is made up of spicules or the spongin fibers. This you have to remember. So in this phylum, the organisms are hermaphrodite, that is, the sexes are not separate. Now, what is the meaning of hermaphrodite? What does this line mean? That sexes are not separate. It means that there are no members that are separately male or female. Both the sex organs are present in a single individual. So that type of condition is known as hermaphrodite. So eggs and sperms are produced by the same individual. So these types of individuals which can produce eggs and sperms at the same time and by the same individual, these are known as the hermaphrodite organisms. So the sponges reproduce asexually by fragmentation and sexually by the formation of gametes. So if the sponges perform fragmentation, that means they reproduce asexually, and if they produce or form the gametes like the eggs and the sperms, so that means they are reproducing sexually. Next comes the fertilization. The fertilization in the cases of Poriferra is internal and the development is indirect. Indirect development means there is a larval stage which is morphologically distinct from the adult. So I think this would be clear. So finally the examples are given. Cycon, that is also known as Scypha, Spongilla, that is a freshwater sponge, and Euspongia, that is the bath sponge. These common names you have to remember. Many a times MCQs are framed on these names like the bath sponge, freshwater sponge or the Scypha. Here you can see the diagram of Cycon. This is the Cycon. This is the Euspongia, second one is Euspongia, and third is the Spongilla. So these diagrams are also very important. These you have to remember. The names of each diagram you have to remember, as question can be framed on these. So the next phylum that we are going to study is the phylum Coelentrata or the phylum Cnidaria. These both names you have to remember. So first of all, what's their habitat? These organisms, the organisms of phylum Coelentrata, are aquatic animals, that is they live in water, and they are mostly marine, sessile or free swimming. Sessile means they are fixed to the substratum or the bottom. So these may be sessile or these can be free living also. These are radially symmetrical animals. So the name Cnidaria is derived from the cnidoblast or the cnidocytes, which contains the stinging capsules or the nematocytes. So these cnidoblast or cnidocytes are characteristic feature of this phylum Coelentrata. So where these are present on the tentacles and the body of the organisms. So the cnidoblasts are used for anchorage, defense and for capture of prey. These are the three important features of the cell, that is the cnidoblast. First function is the anchorage, second the defense, and for the capture of prey. So the cnidarians exhibit tissue level of organization. As I have already told you that combination of cells make the tissues. So this phylum includes tissue level of organization, and these are diploblastic, that is they have only two germ layers. One is the ectoderm and second is the endoderm. So they have a central gastrovascular cavity with a single opening. So what does the single opening mean? The single opening mean that they have incomplete type of digestive system. So mouth is present on the hypostome. This you have to remember, where is the mouth situated? It is on the hypostome. Digestion is extracellular as well as intracellular. Some of the cnidarians, examples, corals, have skeleton that is composed of calcium carbonate. As I have already told you that the skeleton of Poriferra, that is the phylum Poriferra or the sponges, that is made up of spicules or the spongin fibers. So here you have to remember is that the skeleton of the members of phylum Coelentrata are made up of calcium carbonate. So the cnidarians exhibit two basic forms. These are very important: the polyp form and the medusa form. So the former is sessile, that is the polyp form is sessile. Sessile means it is attached to the bottom, that is the substratum. And the cylindrical form like Hydra, Adamsia, etc., these all forms are sessile, whereas the latter is umbrella shaped. Here you can see in this diagram, this is umbrella shaped and this is a polyp. So this is a polyp and this is the medusa. What's the shape? It's umbrella shaped and free swimming like Aurelia and jellyfish. So these are the examples which you have to remember, that the polyp is sessile, that is this is attached to the bottom, and it is cylindrical in shape. Examples are Hydra and Adamsia. And here this is the medusa form of the phylum Coelentrata. It is umbrella shaped and free swimming like the Aurelia or the jellyfish. So next comes that these cnidarians which exhibit in both the forms, these exhibit alternation of generation. So this alternation of generation is known as metagenesis. That is, the polyps produce medusa. This polyp will produce medusa asexually, and this medusa form the polyp sexually. This line is very important, that how polyp is produced from the medusa and how medusa is produced from the polyp. So the example of the organism which exhibit metagenesis, this is the Obelia. So the examples of this phylum include Physalia, that is also known as prodigious man of war; Adamsia, that is also known as sea anemone; Pennatula, that is also known as sea pen; Gorgonia, that is known as sea fan; Mandrina, that is known as brain coral. So all these scientific names and the common names you have to remember. These are very important and questions are framed on this. So this was all about the lecture. Do like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos regarding NEET. Thank you so much for watching.